judges really do play enormous roles in our lives, whether we want to say it or not. Many people will say, well, I'm not going to get in any trouble, so I don't really care what judges are there, because you're not going to see me before the bench. And therefore, there is not the concern, or people wait till the last minute in an election, and they'll be calling me saying, who should I vote for judge? Because there is not the kind of publicity about the judicial races. Those races are nonpartisan. But in fact, just think about it. Whether you have a traffic ticket, you've got to go before the court, whether you're a juror, and we all as voters can be called as jurors, because that judge might keep you till midnight. You want somebody who's a little sensitive, you may have to go pick up your children and go home and cook dinner, or you may just be tired. Those judges may decide on jurors whether or not they're going to have the sheriff go pick them up and going to put them in jail. There are a lot of things that impact our lives, whether we get in trouble or not. But then if we have a son, a grandson, a neighbor, boy, a church member who gets in trouble, the judge is going to impact our lives. There are so many ways judges impact our lives. Did you know that judges, of course, when I first started practicing in 1971 in Fulton County, there was one black face. I don't know if you remember Ms. Burden, who used to sit there on the information desk in Fulton County. She was really the only black face. There were no sheriffs, there were no DAs, PDs, there were no judicial assistants or case managers down there of a different hue. And in fact, when you get judges on the bench, they're able to make hiring decisions. This makes the courthouse feel as if there is an air of fairness. So there are hiring decisions. What about contracts? Let's say we're trying to issue an IT contract. Who makes that decision? The judges. Who decides who the court administrator is going to be? The judges vote on that. Then there are opportunities. Once we see a need as judges, there are opportunities to do something to save our youth. For example, let's say alternative sentencing. The things we started with alternative sentencing are now coming to be, not because we're trying to save people, but because we're scared of the money we're spending. But whichever way we get there, we're glad to get there. But we have called for alternative sentencing for many, many years. What about the family court? I had the opportunity to serve as what they call the birth mother of the family court because there was a need. This spanned the whole spectrum of families, whether it was child support, child custody, but also any juvenile issues. What about the drug court? The need to recognize addiction as an illness. That was led by Isaac Jenrette, our beloved retired judge. So we see a need, mental health court. We see a need and we try to do something about it. Judges are the ones who've led those efforts and who are very, very important. There was a friend of mine down in Florida, a federal judge, who said he was on the federal bench and the white judges didn't understand why there was all this clamor in employment cases about a noose in the workplace. Well, it's just a piece of rope tied up. You know, it doesn't make any difference. That's not discrimination. And he had to tell them the meaning of the noose. You have to sensitize. We have to try to get together with our brothers and sisters on the bench of different persuasions to orient them to our background. And that's why diversity is so important. There was once when I was on the traffic court, Charles, when there was a young lady who stayed in court all afternoon. I was wondering why she was sitting there. She was just sitting in court. And then it was many years later when I saw her, and she came up to me and said, I sat in your court for many an hour one afternoon, and as I looked at you dispensing justice, I saw myself. She went on to law school, and she is now a practicing attorney in Douglas County. The people, the men, who, primarily black men, who come before us, 98%, 99%, in criminal matters before the bench, many of them come before us and they're treated like criminals, basically. But I think we have to treat them with respect if we want them to do the same thing and respect the system. So they were always sir or mister or what have you. And no matter what I sentenced them to, they would say, thank you, Your Honor. You know, see, you have a life sentence. Thank you, Your Honor. but it's the level of respect you're according someone. There was once a young man who was charged with armed robbery. He had a mandatory 10-year sentence, and it hurt me to have to give him that. He was not the main perpetrator, he was a co-perpetrator, but I had to sentence him. But I told him to use that time to study, to do something with his life. A few years later, he called my office asking for an appointment. He came in and walked right in. I shut the door, you know, and I'm talking with him. He said, Judge Moore, I did what you told me to do. I got my GED. I went on and got my associate's degree, and I have now been hired by the Kroger Corporation as an assistant manager. I invited him to another program just to show what can be done. And he was there with his pregnant wife. And that is, if I wanted to say there was something of which I am most proud in my career, that one man and his rehabilitation would be it. Because he did, I always tried to get them, get your education, get a job, come back and do something meaningful. And that is what he did. So when we talk about the effect of judges and how important it is, whether it be judges who are perceptive, who are sensitive, who are respectful, who understand the community, who understand the culture, it is most important that we have judges on the bench who will do something and not just sit there, but stand for something.
Thank you.